The goal of this channel is to study the best athletes in the world and make ourselves better submission grapplers. And basically what that means is coming up with better and better ways to isolate limbs from our opponent so we can go into submissions. Now there's a couple ways we can go about this. One is an opportunistic approach and two is a control-based approach. And the goal of this video is to determine which of these is better for us to focus on as developing athletes. The first way we can go about isolating limbs is to just take advantage of the opportunity when our opponent decides to extend their own limbs away from their body. This tends to be a more energy efficient based approach because you're not expending energy to bring their arm away from their body, they're doing it themselves. There are some scenarios that are fairly easy to capitalize on, and even someone who's untrained in the street can grab a hold of someone's neck if that opportunity presents itself. And this same exact entry works at the highest levels of competition. However, the risk becomes by giving space and allowing that movement to occur, you're potentially giving your opponent the ability to escape. So there's a sense that this opportunistic based approach is kind of an all or nothing kind of deal, where yes, you grab a hold of their neck when they're trying to take you down, and if it works, great, but if it doesn't, now you find yourself in a sticky situation. And in MMA, this is even worse, right? Because if you go for an opportunistic Darce choke and it doesn't work out, now you're on the bottom of the fight getting smashed. And some people who are more comfortable with their defense may even bait these opportunistic submissions just so they can defend them and then get out of the dangerous position that they were in. So those are kind of the pros and cons of the opportunistic approach, being that it's really energy efficient, and if you know what you're looking for, some of the entries can be very easy and they work at the highest levels of competition. But the downside is a lot of times you're sacrificing your own position by going for these opportunistic submissions. Now, an alternative way to go about isolating limbs is a control-based method, where you try and implement a specific set of tactics to isolate the opponent's limb from their body when they are doing everything they can do to prevent you from doing that. Now, if you do end up getting that limb isolated and they go a bit crazy and they end up recovering their position, it's okay because you still maintained your position and you just reboot the system. And now you implement those same strategies, and this time your opponent is a little bit more tired. So it has this kind of marination effect where they just start to get more and more tired the more and more you reboot the system. Gordon does this so much, and when you reboot the system over and over again, it can be a little bit boring to watch. So we've actually seen him get stood up when he's in top mount. But again, the more you reboot the system, the more tired your opponent gets. And Danaher actually just posted that your opponent's not going to be the same person they were in minute 1 in minute 10. And these control-based methods of attack allow you to tire out your opponent and maintain a dominant position until you can eventually isolate that limb and finish successfully with a submission. Now, an interesting development over my jiu-jitsu career has been Leglocks. And they were initially seen as a opportunistic based submission where you kind of jump on a leg, and if it works, great. If not, you end up on the bottom, where in MMA you're getting smashed and can potentially lead to you losing the fight. But now people have developed very elaborate approaches to hold people for very long times in these leg entanglements and work for a successful submission. So just in my short jiu-jitsu career, I've seen Leglocks develop from a opportunistic submission to a control-based submission. And as most of you know, this has led to Leglocks being widely accepted now as an efficient way to control and submit someone, whereas in the past it was frowned upon to go for Leglocks. So as a developing athlete, this tells me that I should be focusing most of my attention on control-based methods of attack. Granted, everyone's style is different, and this should be a way for you to kind of create your own game of jiu-jitsu. But my point is that if your game is reliant on opportunistic based forms of attack, you're going to develop bad habits, especially as a beginner. If you learn an opportunistic guillotine from day one at jiu-jitsu, you might develop the habit of letting your opponent get an underhook, letting them come up so that you can shoot that opportunistic guillotine. But a lot of times this won't work. And if you have the habit of letting people get underhooks on you, that's not going to be good for your long-term development. Now, as your opponents get better and better, it's not going to be as simple as just shooting an opportunistic guillotine. There's going to be a scramble that ensues, and you're going to have to know follow-up techniques to make sure that you either end up on top of that scramble or that you're able to cinch that technique in tighter and ultimately get the successful finish. Now again, I'm not saying that these should not be a part of your game. Sure, it's great to know a few opportunistic wrist locks that you can just try, but I think the primary focus of your attacks should be on control-based methods. So hopefully this gives you some guidance when you're trying to figure out what to give most of your attention to, right? What to study, what to drill, what to implement into your game. Hope you guys find it valuable. If you want to support the channel, the links are down in the description below. Just a reminder, we're giving a 10% giveaway at the end of the month through Patreon. So if you're interested in having a chance to win that, consider joining the Patreon page below. Thank you all again for the support, and I'll see you in the next video.